And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Incorporated in 1910, it was named for Prince Rupert of the Rhine, the first governor of Hudson Bay Company. Prince Rupert's founder, Charles Hayes, had many grand ideas for the port city, but these plans fell through when Hayes perished on the RMS Titanic. On today's Open Connection, we open our archives to 1990 when Prince Rupert was grappling with the cost of operating Mount Hayes ski hill.
It's just a short trip from downtown Prince Rupert to the Mount Hayes recreation area. From the parking lot at the bottom of the gondola, it's less than 7 minutes to the chalet at the top. The proximity of Mount Hayes is one of its advantages, and on a good day, the view can be spectacular, stretching all the way to Alaska. But there are plenty of dreary days in a place like Prince Rupert too, and the unpredictable weather is one of the hill's worst problems.
It's easy to get people up here on a nice day. You could charge 10 times the price on a nice day, and on a bad day you can't give it away, is what it amounts to. I found that out after all these years.
Richard Roy has managed Mount Hayes for 8 of the 10 years the city has operated it. He's on the hill both in the winter and in the summer when skiers give way to tourists looking for a view of the ocean and coastal mountains. This isn't the first year City Council has questioned the cost of running Mount Hayes, especially the winter ski operation. But the city is trying to keep its budget increase this year to the rate of inflation, and that means curbing costs in many departments. Recreation, including the Civic Center and swimming pool, has one of the largest price tags, and Mount Hayes could be one of the easiest variables to manipulate.
Well, it costs a certain amount of money. You can't compare it with the entire recreation, Civic Center, or swimming pool operation, but every $100,000 makes a difference, and that's what it costs now, even without putting in the capital expenditures required to make the facilities adequate.
Now, how do the winter and the summer operations up there compare as far as the costs?
Well, it's hard to differentiate between them, but it seems to me that lately anyway, unless there is a tremendous amount of people skiing, that the cost of operation, the expenses exceed the revenues by considerable amount. No different than the Civic Center, for that matter, but still there's an additional expense. During the summertime, the purpose, I guess, is to increase the tourism facilities in Prince Rupert, and there is a cost certainly, but perhaps not as great as the skiing itself.
Another factor affecting the cost of running Mount Hayes is the recent unionization of workers on the hill. City Council was already questioning the operation when the employees joined the Canadian Union of Public Employees. The new contract will add to the payroll cost.
Everybody working for the city directly belongs to the union. It does increase the cost considerably, which I guess indirectly is a factor.
While the city crunches numbers, skiers and other users of Mount Hayes aren't sitting idly by. They've formed the Mount Hayes Recreation Society and are hoping their efforts can help the city operate the hill more economically.
Well, we're trying to get in touch with more snowboarders and more cross-country skiers to get them involved in creating their own trails and half-pipes for snowboarders. In the summertime, we're in discussion right now with a few different people that have talked about summer camps, day camps for kids up here, and just different walking tours and so on, and upgrading the boardwalks that are here and so on and so forth. The society hopes to raise money to help the city with the operation through bingos, lottery funds if they're available. It's a nonprofit organization, and we hope to just run as many functions as possible to be able to kick in money and help the city to work with them to make sure that it does stay open.
Mount Hayes supporters point to the cost of running the city's other recreation facilities too. They don't want Mount Hayes treated differently.
The other recreational facilities, as well as Mount Hayes, are all paid for with taxpayers' money, as well as a number of other grants and so on. And the ski hill, we've done a study over the last 9 years of how much return it has put in, along with ticket sales and grants and so on and so forth. And we seem to be running at about a 41% rate of return on the money. So we believe also that that's a higher rate than any of the other recreational facilities.
Mount Hayes has 6 main runs for skiing and a T-bar to take skiers to the top of them. The mountain also has a rental shop, lounge, restaurant, and cafeteria in the chalet. The nearest competition for skiing now is about 4 hours away at Ski Smithers, but next winter the Shames Mountain Ski Corporation is planning to open its hill west of Terrace. It will be just an hour-and-a-half drive from Prince Rupert, and there's no doubt many skiers from the city will flock to Shames Mountain. But supporters of Mount Hayes say that shouldn't damage the viability of their own mountain. They say there is a niche only Mount Hayes can fill.
And this is more of a smaller recreational area where Shames is being developed as a major ski resort. We're just more of a starting point for the kids, so they'll get a taste of it and they'll know if they like it, and their parents can drop them off, and it takes 15 minutes to get them here, and they can pick them up at the end of the day.
I've heard this is a bit of a difficult hill to actually learn to ski on, though.
Yeah, well, it's hard for the kids because we don't have as gradual slopes as we'd hope to have for them. But we're going to try to do some more grooming to the hill, see if we can raise some funds and come up with some sort of plan to get a proper slope for beginners. And that way, once they get onto snow plowing, then the mountain's fine for them. But it is hard to start on. If they can start here, though, they can start anywhere. So.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Ski and snowboard instructors have the job of spending their days on the slopes. These patient individuals teach everyone from wee tots to active seniors on how to improve their skiing and snowboarding skills. Let us return to the archives to see how ski instructors help new skiers.
Is that if we move our feet, our skis are going to move.
Mount Hayes already did more to serve young skiers this winter.
This year we went out and we hired Debbie to do the ski instructing on a full-time basis, and then she looks after coordinating the volunteer instructors, or the ones that they're actually paid by the lesson. And then she's also done a lot of the coordinating with the schools to get the schools up here, and we've been fairly happy with that. Some of our weekdays have been fairly busy. We've even received a letter complaining that it was too busy during during the weekday, because I guess they felt that coming up on a weekday there should be no lift lines, and we see parents dropping their kids off, and they're able to come in, get a phone call from the kids at the end of the day when the kids are ready to go, and that's quite convenient. To me, that's a real plus, real benefit to this hill. There's very few places that you can go skiing and be 5 minutes from downtown.
It may be convenient, but again, the weather is the bane of Mount Hayes. Many people are surprised a coastal city like Prince Rupert has a ski hill at all. Their assumption that it wouldn't get much snow sometimes proves true, at least for part of the winter. This year, the mountain didn't open until the beginning of February, that despite work on grooming the runs.
Well, I've been here for 8.5 years, Kathy, and the first 4 years that I was here, we required about 6 feet of snow before we could even put the snowcat or the packer on the hill. And in 1985, in conjunction with the old ski club, we did some summer grooming, or basically excavating, and flattened a few of the runs. And it's helped us out now so that we can get the packer on the hill with a foot of snow and start packing the snow as it lands. And what that does is it makes it that much harder for the rain to wash it away. We can get an early jump on the packing is what it does. Some years it's going to be quite helpful, like in 86, the winter of 85, 86, it didn't help at all because we didn't get any snow. It was a really mild winter all year round. And in 87, 88, we were able to start quite early. We started in December of 87. The season of 88, 89, we started in January of 89, a little bit later, but still quite good. And of course, in 1990, we had such a mild December and January that we just didn't get enough. the ground wouldn't freeze and the snow wouldn't stick to the ground, so it didn't. We weren't able to get going until late February when everything, or late January and early February when things got quite cold.
Couldn't cruise over to Yahoo, eh?
As part of its review, Prince Rupert City Council will consider keeping only the summer tourist operation going. But even that enterprise has suffered in recent years because the big cruise ships no longer stop on the north coast.
The last big cruise ship that we had in town was the Fair Sky, which was in 1985, and we had a few of them in 1986, but they dropped right off Expo. They started going down to Vancouver, and Mount Hayes really noticed, really felt the pinch. I think some of the figures off the top of my head are Mount Hayes had a drop in revenue of about $18,000 from just the Fair Sky alone. And that was in town for, I think, 9 visits over the summer, and we were averaging 400 people a visit a day when they were coming up here.
It's been tough to pick up the slack, but Mount Hayes has been trying to attract the other tourists who visit Prince Rupert, mostly on their way to Alaska by ferry.
We put a summer interpreter program, which we run through the Student Challenge 88, 89, 90, whichever the year may be, and they offer guided nature walks. They do a bit of advising on hiking in the area and that sort of stuff. They do stuff like going down to the campground, and in years past, and they've put on slide presentations in the campground to encourage people to come up from the campground. We get a lot of traffic from the campground because there's a pretty large percentage of the visitors that come into town during the summertime come through the campground.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. It was used as an operational beachhead for their work with the Aluminum Company of Canada. As a result, the area operated by American civil engineering and construction company Morrison Knudsen became known as the MK site. But first, Kathy Brooks gives us final thoughts on Mount Hayes Ski Hill as we return to the archives.
The Mount Hayes Recreation Society foresees more hiking trails and amenities like a barbecue pit as ways to attract more tourists. The Society is now drawing up a plan to present to City Council. The City, meanwhile, has put off making a decision on the hill until it has the Society's proposal.
You have to admire the dedication, and they're well prepared. So what had been suggested to them was that they give the reasons why they think the council should expend this money, which is $100,000 a year generally, plus the capital costs required, as I said, to make an adequate ski facility. It has been estimated to equal maybe $200,000 a year. So we've asked them to make a report to see if there's any variation. They claim that they can raise some money, but I can't see them raising the whole amount. But because of their interest, dedication, and being prepared, we're prepared to listen to a submission they may have. I hope it's in by June, and the council no later than September will make a decision as to whether or not it should be maintained, balancing again the benefits against the cost.
Indeed, the bottom line is the bottom line, and some council members don't see preserving Mount Hayes as a priority.
Well, some people attract quite a bit of importance to it. I don't really.
Mount Hayes has already closed early this winter because of the cost. The city wants to be sure enough of the $80,000 it allocated for the hill is saved for the summer tourist season. It says the mountain could lose $6,000 a week if it remained open for the rest of the ski season. Members of the Mount Hayes Recreation Society say that's a worst-case scenario, but they've resigned themselves to the early closure. Now they're concentrating on making sure the hill will reopen next winter.
Well, it's another recreation that the people need in any northern community like this. The more recreation we have, the better off it is for everyone, especially the kids, we feel. And I really like bringing friends from out of town up here in the summertime. It's a real show-off place for Prince Rupert because the view from here is as beautiful as any ski resort I've ever seen.
Yes, the view can be spectacular.
The cannery seen here is a 43,000 square foot facility that last year handled over 1 million pounds in sockeye salmon. Yesterday, the provincial government officially announced that it's now sold the operation to the Lac Willam's Band Council. Band Councillor Leonard Rees says the announcement is a tribute to those who made it work, including cannery workers and fishermen.
It's been very successful so far. There's been several thousand pounds put in, which wasn't expected for such a small fleet. And they were dedicated fishermen, and they wanted to create employment in the village here, and it turned out real good.
The band's chief councillor, Helen Johnson, welcomes the news as well, saying that the community has shown Victoria the cannery can be productive. She says the next step now is to look at expanding the cannery into a year-round venture.
Right now, we're starting with roe and kelp, herring roe and salmon season. We're looking into clams and whatever other species we're trying to get into. So it's going to be a 12-month operation.
When MKB was shut down, the only public access to fuel supplies on the water was cut off. Charter boat operators have some very specific concerns.
Well, the major concern is that all of our clients are United States citizens who have booked this as their annual holidays, and they're all booked in advance, and we're now concerned about the lack of fuel facilities. There's no diesel fuel anywhere on the water at this point, and some type of dock facilities to unload and load our passengers.
The regional district has been asked to provide some type of temporary fuel facility at MK Bay so boaters can gas up, and there should be a decision on that soon.
We're looking at setting up tanks, permanent or temporary tanks of our own in town on MK Bay Marina, but also I've been working with people out of Rupert on a floating barge, which is 30 by 80 feet long. It has capacity of 20,000 gallons, both gas, diesel, and stove oil.
Monaghan is one of the boaters who kept his vessel in Kitimat, but carrying on business will be difficult.
I'm in Minette Bay presently, but as you know, there's a tide problem, and I only have 1 day between trips. I come in Saturday, go out Sunday. I don't have enough time to go in and out on the tides. So we need someplace to dock our boat, at least to unload and load our passengers, and to take fuel.
He's also concerned about the effect of the shutdown on tourism.
The tourist business in the Kitimat area has the potential of exceeding Campbell River as the fishing capital of BC, their quote. There's a lot of other people, not only the commercial-oriented customers, but the people that come in from on their motorhomes or with their own boats, and they're going to arrive here this summer expecting some type of facility, so hopefully there'll be some temporary thing. I think we can all live with a short temporary situation, but we need something. We have to have some facilities to accommodate these people. We've seen what the tourist industry has done the last 2 years, and there's no reason to expect that not to continue indefinitely at this stage.
What happens if temporary arrangements can't be made?
I shudder to think of the possibilities. There's some legal ramifications there, of course. We don't know. We might have to relocate the whole operation to Prince Rupert.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Named after the daughter of the Minister of Public Works, Minette Bay appears in the 1924 18th report of the Geographic Board of Canada. In this final segment of Open Connection, let us return to the archives as Lee Ellis shares some challenges facing Minette Bay.
It's not just the charter boats that will have trouble getting in and out of Minette Bay. Vessel owners just won't be able to use their boats whenever they want to.
The difficulties are that the channel is very narrow getting in and out. It does get very shallow. There are a lot of logs which do shift, new logs come in. At low tide, you will find that at many places you can walk across the entrance of Minette Bay.
For large boats, there's only about a 1.5 hour period at high tide for navigating the entrance.
For example, today I could get in and out at around 7 o'clock in the evening, and then tomorrow evening again. And in between, the current is very strong as well. It will hit 6 knots at the entrance. So that is a great difficulty, getting in and out, the tides. The other part of it is the tides shift by about 1/2 hour every day. So whereas the high tide tonight is around 7 or 8 o'clock, a week from now it will be 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you do wish to go out for the weekend, it makes it very difficult. It's suitable, approximately suitable, only every second weekend.
It's an understatement to say that boaters are none too happy.
We realize construction does take time, but I almost have to compare it with having to close the highway down to terrace for about a year. That may at the first moment may not be a good comparison, but if you consider that the cars on the highway, most of them are used for pleasure, so are the boats. There is commercial traffic on the highway, but we have commercial traffic in here. There are a lot of people which have invested in sport fishing as sport fishing guides and have big boats for this purpose, and they are not really able to use them efficiently. So it's not a bad comparison.
Public Works Canada is responsible for the design and tendering of the contracts, and marina users believe the whole redevelopment has been very poorly handled.
Everybody has known since about September 1988 that $1 million was available, and planning fell behind, and the money was finally all in place and the planning wasn't done. For me to say exactly who is responsible or who is to blame is a bit awkward. I do not know all the details, but certainly I would go so far as say there is some great incompetency somewhere in the system.
The redevelopment involves 3 phases, and only one is complete. Boaters believe it could have been speeded up.
I think all the tenders should have been called at once in September. You could have phase 1, phase 2, plus the float facilities all tendered in September, tenders received and contracts let within the time frame that's allocated.
The regional district says the final go-ahead couldn't be given till the province announced an additional $700,000 in October to add to the $1 million the federal government gave in September of '88. The project has already been scaled down.
We had to downsize from 185 boats to 125 or 128 boats because we knew the money wasn't going to stretch far enough. So depending on how much money we have left over is how much we're going to get done as far as the frills of water and lighting. With this new contract coming in at $395,000, it looks good. And that's going to give us more money to finish off other phases of the marina.
The low bidder for the second stage, excavating the present parking area to provide more secure moorage, is a company from Saskatchewan. That contract will be let soon. And what about the hundreds of tourists expected to flock to Kitimat this summer, trailing their boats in search of Chinook?
Launching would have to be at Elcan Beach. Parking, I haven't gotten a clue. Right now, there's very limited parking, and they might just have to anchor the boats out in the water.
Lesage, however, thinks tourists will be understanding.
I think we've got to give most of the tourists credit for having a few brains. They realize if you're working on something, you can't be using it at the same time. And there might be a little inconvenience this year, but they know they're going to have a heck of a good marina in the future.
The boaters sum up the situation in just 2 words.
Better planning.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind to his heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.